Hey guys, it's Michael, and today I'm actually going to talk to you about my time in jail. I spent time in jail twice in my life, in 2010, so it was many years ago, but it's still vivid in my mind because it is a trauma for those of you who spent a few days or more than a few days in jail. You know that it's not like watching a documentary on YouTube, and it's much worse when you're actually going through it. So going back all the way to 2010, even before I got addicted to oxycodone, as I've covered in a previous video, you can watch it. I actually, as I was working different jobs and wasn't getting paid much and had to support my addiction to marijuana, and smoking weed and cannabis is very expensive in California, where I was living at the time. And I wanted to smoke the best stuff, so I got myself into drug dealing, because you can always buy in large quantities, sell some, and then smoke, whatever you have left, and this way you don't have to buy. Especially when you're not making much money, then you fall into all kinds of temptations, and obviously it's not something I would recommend to anyone because it's really dangerous, and back then it wasn't legal. It was just legal in California for those who had a marijuana prescription, which I had, but it didn't allow me the ability to sell. I didn't own a dispensary, and obviously deliveries were not legal at the time. I'm not sure if today they are. They probably are, from dispensaries. But basically what happened is that because the rules were kind of gray at the time, and cannabis was becoming kind of legal for patients, so I didn't really think that people will be after people like me who are selling and signing patients. So I would act like a dispensary. I made those contracts where they sign up, that they present their cannabis card or prescription, and I would go on this website and check and verify that they are, and kind of play the role as if and I didn't go with the lawyer and didn't really check into it. So I kind of told myself, I convinced myself to think that it was okay to some extent, and no one's gonna actually be after me. And then one day I was arrested in a sting operation in Santa Clara County. It was just an apartment. Two guys called me. I came with about half a kilo of weed, 500 grams, and of different strains, different things. And all of a sudden, after they handed me the money, I handed them the weed. People stormed at me from all kinds of directions, with their weapons pulled, and think about people coming from different rooms, and it's like this big sting operation, and another guy was sitting at a different room with a computer. So it was a big operation. Many people got arrested that day, and one of them was me. And the minute they put those handcuffs on your hands and read your rights, and you lose the sense of freedom, you realize how terrible your situation is, and it seems so hopeless. You get into this panic mode. I don't know if it's, I'm sure that many people would feel the same. Some people, who got arrested many times, like, oh, whatever. You see them get arrested on all those videos on YouTube, and they're like, oh, whatever, man, whatever. But if you've never been arrested before, and you don't even know what you're facing, it can be very traumatizing. It can be a very tough experience. And for me, it was really difficult because I felt like it was going to be something serious, and I didn't know exactly what I was going to do, how long it's going to take. And basically, so they drove me into, they they booked me into the prison, and it was a jail. Basically, there is jail and prison. Jail, you spend up to a year, or during the time in which you're waiting for your, to get bailed out, or if you're waiting for your sentencing, they put you in jail. Then there is the prison, which is more hardcore. So I was in a county jail, and in San Jose, California. And once they booked me in, they set a bail. I had a bail of $20,000, and luckily my brother, I was able to get a hold of him from the phone in jail, and he bailed me out. Basically, you pay 10% of the bail, so that was $2,000. He actually went to a bail bond company, and within like a few hours in the middle of the night, he paid it. He withdrew whatever money he had at the time, and he really saved me. And then I basically, he bailed me out. That was after about 1 day, and yeah, it was like one night, a day, and another night. Because once they bail you, it takes a few hours until they release you, so it's a big process. And you know, when I first went in the cell, I got into this panic where I was so anxious and full of anxiety that I felt like it was gonna cause some brain damage. Really, maybe it did, but I was like, you know, I couldn't eat anything. I couldn't, you know. Some of you can relate to it, unless you were in prison just for like driving under influence, and you know you were there for a few hours. But I really didn't know what I was facing. Now, after I was released on bail, I had to go through the court system, and I was facing 4 felonies, basically transportation with the intention to distribute, possession, all kinds of things that actually sound similar, and you know, so I was facing a year in jail if I was to be sentenced, you know, if I was to be convicted. And I had a public defender instead of a private lawyer because I couldn't afford one. And you know, every few weeks you go to a court date and you have to face the judge, and then the second time I got arrested was this one time, you know, they changed the court location, and I didn't, you know, think about it, I didn't remember, and I went to the wrong place, and then I asked the woman at the counter. I was like, okay, so I came to, you know, court, what's going on, where is it? And she said, she looked in the computer, she was like, you're late, it's been like 10 minutes, you should have been there 10 minutes ago, it's at a different building, and now I see there is a warrant for your arrest. I was like, what? A warrant for my arrest? It's been 10 minutes, let me drive over there real quick. And she was like, no, you have to contact your lawyer, they need to contact the judge and reschedule, but if they don't do it in time, you'll get arrested again. And so I couldn't even get a hold of my public defender, so I left a message with the secretary of their office, and she said she'll let him know, you know. And anyways, I guess she didn't or whatever, and at the time I was also sick with the flu, so I spent some time at home, away from work, and then one time I just left. I went to go to the drive-thru in Burger King, and as I was leaving, there was like 3 police cars surrounding me, and they just arrested me. It was the same drug unit people that arrested me the first time, and this time they booked me in with $100,000 bail, and I didn't even call my brother because it was like $100,000, so he's gonna need to pay 10%, which is $10,000. And then I really freaked out at that point. And what happened was that I spent a couple of days until my court date. I spent in jail, in which during that time I didn't eat anything, like literally. Other prisoners were really happy with the fact that I didn't eat. I just gave them my banana, different things, you know, they loved it. And the judge, so you know, when you're facing all kinds of small time felonies, it's not like in the movies where you get to speak with the judge and everything. The judge doesn't even look at you. There's just like 30 other people with you. Like, okay, case number, go back, come back to court in 10 days. Go back to jail, come back to court in 10 days. So that's how they treat, like, it's like a machine. So basically when it was my turn, I told my public defender, please check with the judge real quick. You know, if they see that I really attempted to go to the other court and I did leave a message, you know, that I went to the wrong place by mistake, and so they can consider it. And he spoke with the judge and said they don't have any record of me calling the public defender's office or anything. Anyway, so, and they said you'll have to go back to jail and come back in a few days to see the judge. So I was like really panicking, and I went back to jail. And then what I did was I was planning, what can I do, you know. So at my next hearing, I just straight up told the public defender, please let me just stand up and talk to the judge for like 30 seconds, just explain the situation. And I did, and I actually played it really well. I had tears in my eyes, and I told him, look, I went to the wrong place. I have a job, I have a car, I have different things. You know, I have a rented apartment. I'm not a risk to society. Please let me just. I don't have money for bail, and you know, and I guess he understood. He said, you know, sit down and wait until the end, and eventually, he spoke with my public defender, and they released me the next day. So I spent a few more days in jail just because of a mistake of going to the wrong place. Now, in jail, what's the interesting thing is that it's just like in the movies, you know, because when I went in, immediately some Spanish guys came to me like, hey, you a homie, like maybe they thought I was Spanish because of my skin, and then this white guy came at me and he was like, no, come over here, come, let me show you around. And I guess he thought I was white, so they thought I was Spanish, they thought I was white. I'm just a mix. So I went with this white guy, and he told me, no, so basically this is where we sleep, because it was this big place. It's not like cells. They put us in a big place, and black people were in one place, the Mexicans, who were a majority, were in one place, and then the white people were in one place. And that's where I was at. And they told me, no, these are the bathrooms you can use. Here you can walk, here you can't. And it's just like so racially divided, it's insane. But it's just like the movies, and they said, you know, don't look at anyone for too long, you know, you might, you know, anger them. And so you gotta just kind of comply with the rules. It's a new set of rules in jail, you know, and many people are facing sentences of 10, 20 years. They're not gonna take any shit, you know, you do something wrong and they'll, you know, or some people who are facing life, you know, you can just, I don't know, look at them the wrong way and they can, I don't know, stab you or kill you or whatever. Usually in prison, so jail is not that hardcore, but still, it just doesn't feel right to be there, you know, it just, it feels so terrible. But then the thing is that once I left, and after a few days, after he released me and he considered me, after my speech in court, and I felt the best sense of freedom ever. It was kind of like after my withdrawal from oxycodone, where I finally felt normal again. So you appreciate life in a way you never did. You're like, wow, I'm free, you know. And I didn't even have a ride home or anything. They impounded my car, and I didn't care about anything, you know. I was just free, and you really appreciate life once your freedom is taken from you. And it also prepared me for the future, because when I started my online businesses, I always made sure to pay taxes. It doesn't matter how much, never risked my company with offshore accounts and all kinds of tricks and trying to deduct business expenses that are not legit. So it prepared me because, you know, when you're working online, you feel like, you know, you're disconnected from the offline world and there is no offline consequences, but it's not true. You mess up, things can go wrong. So you gotta play your cards right, you know. So it did help me in many ways, made me stronger. Now, I don't recommend going to jail, such as I've said with, you know, how the addiction made me stronger. But it's just kind of background about my life, so you get to know me a little more. Know that, you know, I wasn't born with everything. Things weren't always good. And that, you know, there is a silver lining in many cases. If you have a good attitude and you learn from your mistakes and you can go through from being a felon, from being in jail, from being addicted to narcotics, to being a millionaire, to having a good life, you know, so it's possible. And even if you don't become this big millionaire, you can still change your life around, you know. I had a bad credit. I have still felonies on record, basically. So I'm an ex-felon. I'm not even sure if I can vote. Probably not. I can't vote as a person with a felony. And, you know, so felony, drug addictions, bad credit, poverty, so many things. But I mean, if you still have hope and you love life, then you can really change your life around. And if any of you is facing it right now, the court system, and you're in it, then know that, I mean, you just gotta persevere and be strong. And you know, that's one of the reasons. I'm not gonna blame the court system, but during that time I felt so kind of like helpless in a way. Like life was very stressful. I didn't know how I was gonna get sentenced, how it's gonna unfold. So I fell into all kinds of things, and one of them was the oxycodone, because it made me feel good, and all I cared was to at least feel good at the moment. Like, life sucked so much that if I could at least feel good for a little bit here and there, then I could get some relief. But then there was a big price to it. So looking back, I mean, it was better to just face it, because it just makes you stronger when you face reality when you're sober, and it just makes you stronger, because if you use any artificial things to help you deal with struggles, then it just weakens you. And when you have to deal with struggles, when you're again being sober, then you're gonna have a tough time, you know. So you gotta re-teach yourself how to do it. So, you know, there's no shortcuts basically to anything, and there's a price for everything you do. And yeah, so you know, so Michael Freeman is an ex-felon and an ex-drug addict basically. So you know my history a little bit. I guess there's a lot more, but those two things were really big things that happened to me that I wanted to share publicly, and hopefully to inspire people to understand that, you know, life can really change for the better. And that's it, I guess. What else? Did I forget anything? Oh yeah, so the only thing I wanted to mention is that at the end I signed a plea deal, in which instead of getting a year in jail, I signed a deal in which I had to go through probation for 3 years, in which you need to go get tested, to see if you're smoking, or if you go to a different country or leave the county or the city, then you need to call your probation officer and let them know. So you're very restricted, and if you violate the terms of the plea agreement, then you can find yourself in jail for a year. Now, I just didn't want to fight the case, because the prosecution, they said, you know, you're probably going to lose. And they had so much evidence. I mean, they found me with 0.5 kilo of weed. When they first interrogated me, I made all the newbie mistakes that you can make by just talking, because I really didn't know. I mean, the guy made me feel like if I talk, if I cooperate, then things are gonna be easier, and I fell for it. I was so stupid. Like, I could have just not said anything and it would have been the same. But anyway, it doesn't matter. So yeah, so I got probation, thankfully, so I didn't have to spend a year in jail. But even those few days, you know, it's not easy, because once they said like $100,000 bail on you, it's really scary, you know, and you don't know what's going on, when you're gonna be out. But thankfully, I managed to, you know, convince the judge to understand that it was a mistake, and thankfully on the first time my brother bailed me out, so thank you very much for that. Later on in life I repaid him by helping him set up online businesses and different things, and he bought a house, and he supports his wife and kids, and he's doing very well. So I eventually, you know, I found my way to repay him. So it was good for him to help me out, right? You know, to stay on good terms with me. So anyway, yeah, so that's it about jail. If you have any questions about jail or anything like that, I mean, I would love to answer, because I do have some experience with it. If you have your own experiences, I would be interested to know, you know, if you've ever spent some time in jail, that you can share it in the comments, and I would love to, you know, get some feedback. And that's pretty much it. So I'll see you in the next video. I plan to, and like I said before, I mean, I plan to now post all kinds of videos, commentary about my life, inspiring things, some of my hobbies, and also this project I'm coming out with very soon, which is going to be really, really life-changing for many people. So stay tuned. I hate to, you know, hype it up like that and keep you in suspense, but you know, I'm working on it. I've been working on it since 2015, okay? So it's not like something I just came up with. It's something that's been in the making for a very long time, and it's a great opportunity. So stay tuned, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.